近周末 F1 将在上海比赛，Prix 的赛车会议很有意思，所以我们会有一个特别好比赛。欢迎回到 305K The Racing Podcast. um, I'm gonna switch back to English because that's the extent of my Chinese ability. But anyways, we are going to the second race of the season out in Shanghai. It should be a great race, and I think that
Yeah,
one of the biggest stories going in here just started off strong. I mentioned it in the intro that we might have to translate, but Ferrari are bringing in their Macarena rear wing, which we talked about in
yeah,
testing. It's the one that goes all the way around, faces upwards. I think that's probably going to be the biggest story this weekend and one
yeah.
of the biggest innovations of the season.
Oh, yeah. I think it was the biggest thing we saw come out of testing, and kind of the most like I guess you want to call it unexpected
Hmm.
development. Um, no one saw a rotating rear wing coming, and not only that, but an effective one. From what we've heard, we
Yes.
at the moment there's been no racing on track as we normally record these before, so we don't officially know like how much of an advantage this might provide to Ferrari.
Yeah.
But after that first race, they're saying, "Oh man, we need to bring out the big guns," and they're bringing out the rear wing.
Yeah. I think that right now we're about, as we record this, about 4 hours from cars on track in FP1, and it kind of just goes straight into sprint qualifying after that. So we're going to see it pretty quick. But this rear wing looked in testing as if it was going to provide the time. Like I said, it's called the Macarena rear wing. It does, a full spin. This could be the tool that helps Ferrari get there. They didn't use it in Melbourne because there aren't as many just straights. And Shanghai is known that back straight on that track is one of the longest on the calendar. It's got a very, very long back straight. So that rear wing will have enough time to open all the way up so that the drag caused by the spinning is kind of overwritten by the amount of um, lift, pretty much the lack of downforce that they're going to have all the way down that back straight. And we've seen here in the past, you can have great pace, but if you aren't fast in the straight, it's really, really hard to get by without a huge tire offset.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a track that Ferrari had some success with last year, and they obviously got disqualified from the race. But Lewis
Hmm.
Hamilton won the sprint last year. And I think at the beginning of the year, at least I was like, is this like the Lewis Hamilton era of Ferrari where he's just going to like
Yeah.
dominate? And we all know how that season went, how bad that car was. No offense, Tucker, but I think we both agree on that. Um,
Look, I'm not gonna defend it. It was, if I see a terrible car, I point out a terrible car. That Ferrari last year was really just one of the most disgusting pieces of engineering I've ever seen. It was awful.
yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. The McLarens had a lot of success here last year. They went 1-2, Oscar Piastri, followed by Lando Norris. Um,
Hmm.
they didn't have an incredible weekend last year. Oscar obviously didn't start the race, and Lando finished like P5, which wasn't terrible. But just like after winning a constructors and a drivers championship, you kind of would expect better out of the defending
Yeah,
champions.
for sure. Well, I also think that it's important to note last year, Oscar had a rough Melbourne. He obviously spun out onto the grass. Was last on the road for a period of time. Came back and scored, a few points, but not a lot. I think he ended up, P7, something like that. Low
Mhm.
sum of points. That was last year. And then came back in China and really dominated that weekend,
Yeah.
put himself in front. And he went on a run from there of winning races. And I think
Yes.
that I'm not sure if I'm ready to declare this a track that he's very good at, but for sure, based on last year's precedent, this could be a moment where this championship maybe comes back in within his grasp, or maybe just flips to McLaren's, goes to the cars they have in their hand, plays to their car. We'll see. And I think that right now, as much as Mercedes looked out front, we've really only seen one track. And the thing about
Yeah.
F1 is that track to track, cars can look drastically different. And
Mhm.
this is China has a lot of longer sweeping corners, not as much of the kind of fast and heavy braking zones that Melbourne has. There's a really long sweeping turn one. There's a huge backstraight that
I
we've
was gonna
talked about.
mention.
It's a very different environment, and the cars have to deal with a lot of different forces than they did in Melbourne.
Yeah, that first turn is unlike kind of anything we see for the rest of the year. It kind of does. You go into the turn, you make a loop, continue looping, and then you end up like doing another loop to
Yeah.
that. It's an
It's the
unbelievable.
ultimate test of the driver's patience because you really, really have to let the car settle around that long corner before getting into the gas and going to the next corner. It's really one of those where you can see how tantalizing it is. A couple years ago, there was a sprint there, and Lando starting P1 for the first time in a very long time. This was before his championship season last year. Was beaten off the line and tried to hold it around the outside and just went off track because you can't do
Oh,
that because it's so long and sweeping. But really, it's just a tough track mentally for the drivers because there are so many of those sweeping corners. You have to follow throughout almost the entire lap before you get to that long back straight.
yeah.
Um, so it's very different from Melbourne. And like I said, that's going to reflect on the teams and the car, but I also think it's going to reflect on the drivers. We don't have we don't have as many rookies as we did last year, but I will be very interested to see how Arvin Lindblad does because
Yeah.
obviously there's no hiding it. He had a spectacular weekend in Melbourne. Um, and there was a question, how much is that relative to the track and how much is that just raw pace from him?
Yeah, it was a spectacular weekend from him. As you said, I don't think there's any arguing against that. I don't know. China's such a it's just a weird track. It kind of feels like it's almost in the middle of nowhere when it's closest to the city. But like even the main straight has like that big thing above it. And it's just you don't really
Hmm.
see that for the rest of the year. I don't know. Everything about China's odd. You know, the worst part about it is the start time because it's starting at 3 a.m. Eastern for
Oh
us.
yeah,
And
it's awful. I
not,
gotta
I
tell you,
mean,
unless there's no way I'm gonna be up for that race.
yeah,
I
no.
mean, there is a world, but I mean, I gotta tell you, the week that I have upcoming academically is like looking at this race and just frowning because a 3 a.m. start time is just unbelievable. This one, like we said last week, this one's going on the DVR. This
Yeah,
is gonna be a morning
exactly.
race.
Well, we might get to watch the sprint. I think that starts at like 11 p.m. Eastern. So,
Yeah.
what tomorrow night? So hopefully we'll get to
And
watch the sprint.
we'll post for that and
Yeah,
keep everyone updated.
yeah,
I must say that it feels a little bit like archaic to me. Like you're going back in time when you shut off your phone, shut off all notifications to DVR the race and watch it the next day.
yeah. I mean, I can't. I've told you this. I can't open up my phone because I'm gonna know who won anything before if I open up a single app. So I basically just have to go
Hmm.
downstairs and focus right on the race and see what happens.
It's like living through the 1920s, I gotta tell you. Um, we should move on to Mercedes. Obviously, the big story
Yeah.
coming out of Melbourne, they looked really dominant. Um, I wanted to ask you because I thought Kimi Antonelli had a very spectacular weekend. Besides,
Mhm.
obviously, FP3, he
Yeah.
crashed. Beyond there, he really just looked strong. He had a little bit of a
Yes.
tough start, qualified really well once he got out of the garage.
Mhm.
Had a really great race after lap one. He kind of dropped back at the start, but beyond that, after that, he was great. He really lived up to the pace of that car. Do you think we could see a little bit of an Oscar Piastri-esque run from him starting here in China against George Russell?
I don't. I think George is just a driver that I don't think he's going to get beat by Kimmy that much. I just think he's a bit more mature of a driver. I don't think he's going to make as many mistakes as Kimmy might. Kimmy might win some races here or there and keep it somewhat close. But I think in a way it could be like the end of the 2023 season where, Lando's kind of fighting for it, but you really know in the like long run, he's probably not going to win this championship. So I think if there's any contest from Kimmy, it's going to be like that. But I will
Yeah,
say, I'm kind of regretting my constructors championship pick because I really thought Kimmy would be the reason Mercedes wouldn't win it. But after that weekend in Melbourne, I really do think
yeah.
Mercedes is going to win the constructors.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, I think that George Russell is one of the drivers I respect the most on the grid. Unfortunately, a lot of the times I'm not rooting for him to do well, but I think he is really good at just getting the results done. Although I don't think he's ever been in this position, and it didn't get to him in Melbourne, but I think that at a certain point of time in this season, we're going to see cracks show in some way or another. Maybe it's the car struggling with reliability and he feels more pressure. I think that Kimi Antonelli, from what I've seen from him the last 2 years, I do think that he has the skill that he was kind of touted as having. Even though he hired when he was 17 to race for Mercedes, he's got big shoes to fill. But I think that he does have the talent to do that. And I don't know if he switches it on this season, but I think that he could actually be a dangerous competitor for George in the title fight, especially early on. Because I kind of said this last week, I've alluded to it, but right now Mercedes need to cash in on all the results that they can because they're in a position where it seems like they're out in front, but from there, the next step is probably that gap gets slimmer. And so
Mhm.
while they still have this big advantage, they need to be getting results. And for George, who's hoping to obviously win that driver's title, he needs to be getting wins, and he can't have his teammate beating him. And all of a sudden, you have two guys who are sitting here with the rest of the field like this instead of George being way up above. So I think that he could actually be a hindrance to George for the title.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I think it's interesting you mentioned like the cracks going down the stretch and like him never being in a position like this before because I feel like last year we had the exact same situation happen with Oscar Piastri.
Yeah,
It's like, you're leading the championship, you have this big gap, and all of a sudden we started to see the results kind of dwindle. And it
yeah.
ended up costing him the championship in the end. But he also
Not to mention,
lost to
I would say that Lando did the same thing early on in the season, and it was just the fact that the
Mhm.
two McLarens were so far out in front that they kind of canceled each other out in the end. Max couldn't quite catch up.
And I think that's kind of what you were just mentioning as well, of like the Mercedes needing to cash in because even with the McLaren results, they were still winning races as a team, especially. That
Hmm.
constructors was locked up so quick that if
Yeah,
Mercedes, if they are as like just this quick every race, if they can get a gap, the constructors could be over halfway through the season. Like
yeah, and look, I
not fully, but you know what I
yeah,
mean.
but
Like just
pretty much that's what it was last year, where it was a 400 point difference, and you're like, obviously they're
yeah.
not going to come back. I must say that my Ferraris, I'm actually feeling quite confident about after week one,
Yes.
mainly because in the second seat, Lewis looked relatively back to his own self, and I think that that will happen if Ferrari have a very competitive car. He didn't get that last year. You know,
Yeah.
they were somewhat close early on, and he won a sprint, and then it was kind of questionable. But I think that car was I think Carr was really like I think that he kind
Yeah.
of had the Sergio Perez situation where yes, maybe he was struggling, but it was kind of metastasizing with the fact that the car itself was also struggling and kind of falling apart beneath him. And I
Mhm.
think that this year, if he's given that car, he can be a very solid second driver and even challenge Shaw a little bit. But I go back to what I said about George with the crack showing. Shaw has that experience because he was in a position where he looked like he had a very good chance to fight for the championship, and those cracks did
2022.
show. Obviously, 2022, yeah. Um, I think that he could really have a good chance still, and I know that that's saying still is a little bit obnoxious. Obviously, it's race two.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I still like him for this championship.
Yeah, I honestly do too. I think the Ferraris have a very dangerous car, and I think if this wing pays off, I think if they can like keep up the results, it could very well be a Mercedes Ferrari championship. And it's the second race of the season. We're still speaking a bit out of our ass if we're being honest. Um, that
Yeah,
being
like I
said,
said before, we don't know how any of these cars are going to perform at a new track quite
it'll
yet
take
because
like
they could have
5 to 6
completely different
races,
arrow.
I feel like, for us to be getting like consistent analysis almost.
Look, I got 0 points on some of the weekends last year. I don't think that I have good analysis at any point in the season. So,
Yeah.
maybe it's better to go off vibes and luck than actual, technicalities. We
Yeah. Well,
should, on that note, get into our predictions,
yep.
which, as usual, are either going to be brilliant or going to be really, really bad. Don't put
Yeah.
your money on them. I will say that.
No.
But that being said, this is a sprint weekend. As some of you might know from last season, sprint weekends, we have more points on the table because in the sprints, predictions count for a third of the points that they do in the race. And then obviously we give one prediction. So, you pick George Russell to win the race. I pick Charles Leclerc. Charles wins the sprint. George wins the actual race. You get 13 points for that. I get 5 for Charles winning the sprint.
Yep.
So I should just send it over to you. Who do you have for pole?
Oh my god, I forgot to make that prediction
On the fly.
on the fly.
Live Jackson
Um,
prediction.
Lewis Hamilton.
Ooh. Oh God.
Yeah, I got Lewis
Man.
taking. I got Lewis taking a pole position. Yeah, I know, shocking, but
You like the Macarena wing.
I do. I think it's gonna be a good weekend for number 44.
I would absolutely love that to be true. He loves this track, doesn't he? He's like
Yeah,
honorary Chinese citizen or something.
yeah. I
I
saw
feel like
him. He made an
he's like that
Instagram
at like
post. He was like,
4 or 10. But he's been great here. Obviously he had kind of a sour experience here when he was a really young driver. DNF'd in the pit lane. That's neither here nor there though.
yeah,
He's obviously been well experienced here, and I think that with this car he does have a chance. So I like that pick. I'm going for his teammate. I'm going for Charles Leclerc.
yep,
Um, I think that he never really got off that really good lap at the end of Q3. And I think that with
Mm.
this rear wing, with this new track, hopefully Ferrari will be closer. I think that he has a chance to go in there and execute in Q3 and get pole.
Yeah, I could see it happening. So surprise points then?
Yeah. So my points, I'm glad that I get to do this one first because last week you
All
stole
right.
my prediction.
Damn
And
it.
this week I'm going to go right with it again. Ollie Behrman is my pick for surprise points.
Oh, okay.
The Haas looks really good. And off the line, it's looked really good too. And in that midfield fight, getting off the line really well is everything. And I think that as much as I was surprised by it, the Ferrari engines really do have an advantage off the line. I mean,
Yeah.
Leclerc went from P4 to P1 in one corner because of those, because of their quicker starts. So I have Ollie Behrman. I think that the car is there in the midfield. It's up near the top of the midfield, and their start is going to be really rapid. So that's my pick.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take his teammate, Esteban Ocon. I think you said everything that needs to be said about the Haas. It's a good car this
Mhm.
year, good engine with the Ferrari. He finished P5 in this race last year, had a
Yeah, I was looking at
stellar
him.
result, and I feel like I use this strategy a lot. But I think he's gonna like use the momentum he had from last year and have another good finish. So I'm gonna take him for my points this week.
All right. Now your flop.
Well, I don't like I kind of hate doing this because I really counted on him, but I am gonna go Ollie Behrman.
Wow.
I I don't.
Shit.
It's a
Means
typical.
you
I
cursed
don't.
my pick.
Yeah, well, it didn't really work last week, so I can't really feel like I cursed him yet. I really like Ollie. I was looking for someone to pick, and I don't know. Ollie kind of stuck out to me. So because I feel like I picked him so many times for points, and he's gotten me points
You have
every
to
time.
balance it out.
I feel yeah, I kind of gotta like be like
I see
Thanos
it.
and just kind of restore the balance.
All right, my flop, I have Arvin Lindblad, and I think that this is kind of a mean one because it's only his second race, but he flew so high in Australia that I just think that he's going to have to come crashing down this week. I just don't, I would be amazed. It would be really incredible to me if he
Yeah.
finished well here. And that's not to say that he's not a good driver. I just don't think that he's like an all-time talent. And I think that inevitably you're going to have a result like, a P15, something like that. So I have him as my big flop.
So kind of like a welcome to
Yeah,
F1
it's me
moment.
is welcome to varsity moment. Welcome to F1 moment.
Yeah. Bold prediction. What do you got?
So my bold prediction is I'm not proud of it. It's not very interesting actually, but my bold prediction is that we have the same winner of the sprint and the race.
Okay.
Hopefully
That's
that's Charles Leclerc. Oh,
yeah.
I just spoiled my whatever.
Doesn't
Don't steal
matter.
it.
I wasn't gonna say. It's funny. I was trying to think of a like like a prediction, and I'm like, what could I do that would be somewhat interesting? So I'm actually gonna go the complete opposite of yours. I actually am winner of the sprint does not win the race. This
All
wasn't
right.
coordinated.
This
We
means that we have 5 points here somewhere. That's good.
yeah. Someone's not going home with a Tucker 2025 Baku
hmm
weekend.
I try and
But
forget that one every week.
I can still see that bugs you a bit.
Um,
That
you
was
can
such
tell
an
I think
epic
about it because I
week.
think I've mentioned it the last 2 or 3 episodes.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So I guess I'll start off the podium. I have Oscar Piastri. I think he's gonna
In
have a little bit of
P3.
a in P3, yeah, in P3. I think he's gonna have a little bit of a comeback weekend after his like brutal failure in Melbourne. Um, we kind of said it. He does very well at this track, and especially last year, just dominated the weekend. But I don't think the McLaren is fully there like it was last year. So I think he'll get P3.
This pick, I think, might be a little bit surprising, but at the same time, I'm not even sure that you're going to have all that different for me. P3, I have George Russell.
Mhm.
Um, and that kind of sets a precedent for a fun rest of the podium for me. But I think that
Yeah.
it's nothing against him. I just think that he's going to be not on the front foot this weekend. I think he'll be good. Obviously, I think he'll be up in the fight, but I don't think he's going to win. I think he's going to be in P3.
Okay. I'm gonna follow you right there, P2. I got George Russell. I don't think he's gonna win, but I think that the Mercedes is good enough to where he's gonna have like a good result.
hmm
I don't know that the Mercedes is just dominant this weekend. I think if I kept him off my podium, it would just be unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't want to put them on my podium, but it's like McLaren last year and the year before.
You have
It'd be
to get
silly
points.
not
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
You kind of have to. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, my P2, I have Lewis Hamilton.
Mhm.
Um,
Wow.
I was really encouraged by last week. I really was. I feel so much better about this car. I feel so much. I mean, I shouldn't say so much better about the car. I feel great about the car. I feel great about the drivers. It just looks like we're up in the fight. It looks like we're there, and I think that Lewis is going to have a good race, and I think that he's going to be P2.
Yeah. Do you want to do P1 because you kind of leaked it?
Yeah. Okay. My P1 obviously
It's
is
a
Charles
1-2
Leclerc.
finish for the Scuderia, baby.
It's not a good start for me that I picked him last week and he didn't win it, and now I picked him this
He had a
week,
good race though.
and
It's not like
he had a
he
good race. He did
crashed.
have a good race. So I'm really hoping I've never correctly predicted him to win a race, and I've predicted him to win a lot of races. I think
Oh my
so.
gosh.
Hopefully he can come through for me here.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good weekend for Ferrari, and I'm gonna just salute that with my pick for P1. I have Lewis Hamilton winning the race.
Wow.
I think he's gonna have a great weekend. Last year he won the sprint. I think the Ferrari is like very gonna be very good this weekend. I'm very excited to see this wing in action, and I just think I don't know why because Lewis hasn't won a race in like over a year, but I think he's gonna win. I think he's gonna win.
Well, he won
Um,
the sprint last year, so
that's
if
that's
if there
that's
is a race, this could be
yeah,
this one.
that or Brazil, I think. But
Hmm.
Brazil's not for months and months and months.
I can't
So
wait that long to predict Ferrari winner. I don't
I'm
know
so
about you.
sad. I should be going to that race. I was going to Buenos Aires in the fall, but I'm not. I'm
No.
not going to Buenos Aires in the fall. It's a shame.
Oh well.
Oh well, yeah, it
Well,
doesn't get to go abroad. Yeah,
you know, this is going to be a great race, and I think it's going to be very revealing about how the season should go. And obviously, we said that last week. We're going to say that next week. It's kind of true about all these races. That's why
yeah.
they're so important right now. I think if you're going to tune into an F1 race, now's the time to do it because they mean a lot because they're kind of going to determine how the rest of the season and maybe even the next
Next
5 years
four
are going to
years,
go
yeah.
for the team. So it's really everything's kind of resting on development right now. Everything's resting on how the drivers perform. And we have a lot of these teams that are in a situation where week to week performance could have detrimental effects on how how they perceive their car, how the car is doing. So keep an eye out for it. Obviously, I'll set up my shrine for Charles Leclerc and pray that Ferrari can get a victory. Um,
Oh man.
but there's nothing we can do but now wait and watch this weekend. And
Yep.
hopefully everyone will watch along with us. So thank you guys for watching.